The abandoned moon had no name on any modern star map. It was just a cold, forgotten rock hidden in the shadow of a dying red star. But Captain Rhea Morgan had a strong feeling from the moment she landed that this place held a secret. The air inside her helmet felt heavier. The silence felt thicker. Even her heartbeat sounded too loud. Her team from the Terran Explorer Corps moved slowly across the rocky surface, scanning for life or technology. What they found instead was a strange energy reading deep under the ground. The scanner showed an old power signature, very old, maybe centuries. Rhea's second-in-command, Elias Tran, looked at her with uncertainty. "Captain, this place wasn't built by the Empire. It looks human." "That's impossible," Rhea said. But she didn't sound confident. Human structures this deep in enemy space? It made no sense. Still, she followed the signal. The entrance was hidden under layers of dust and frozen sand. They cleared the surface until a metal hatch appeared. The metal was dark and smooth, untouched by time. In the center of the hatch was a symbol none of them had seen in years, a silver triangle with a circle inside. Rhea froze. "Is that Aegis?" Elias whispered. Rhea nodded slowly. She remembered the stories told by old Terran officers, full of mystery and fear. The Aegis program had been humanity's most secret military project 500 years ago. They tried to create a perfect super soldier strong enough to end wars before they started. But the project had ended in disaster, and every prototype had been destroyed. At least that was what history said. Rhea stared at the symbol. She felt a shiver. "This site is older than the Empire," she said softly. "Open it." Her engineering officer, Lyra, cut through the lock. The hatch groaned like a beast waking up. A long, dark tunnel stretched downward, disappearing into metal shadows. A stale, cold air drifted out. They descended slowly, their boots echoing on the steel steps. The deeper they went, the more the walls began to change. Strange markings appeared, codes, warnings, and diagrams. Rhea's suit translated some of them. Warning, prototype active. Biostasis level, maximum. Aegis 01. Elias stopped. "Captain." Aegis 01 was the first prototype. Rhea didn't answer, but her heart beat faster. At the end of the staircase, the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Lights flickered to life as if the system had been waiting for someone to arrive. A low hum filled the room, growing stronger and steadier. In the center of the chamber stood a giant cylindrical cryopod. Frost covered its glass window. A faint blue glow pulsed behind the ice. Rhea approached slowly. Inside the pod, a figure floated peacefully. A man. His body tall, muscular, and perfectly still. His face calm, almost serene. His skin looked untouched by time. Lines of advanced nanotech ran across his arms and neck like glowing tattoos. Elias stared with wide eyes. "This can't be real." Lyra whispered, "He looks alive." Rhea felt her throat tighten. The label on the pod read, Aegis 01, Lion. The first prototype. The soldier who vanished 5 centuries ago. The one humanity believed lost forever. Rhea had to remind herself to breathe. Her team spread out around the chamber, scanning the walls. Every console was dead except the cryopod's control panel. It blinked softly, showing stable life signs. Whoever built this place wanted Lion preserved, hidden from the galaxy. But the question was, why? Rhea stepped back, thinking. No one must know we found him until we understand what this place is. Before anyone could respond, the ground shook violently. Dust poured from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Elias grabbed a console. "Captain. Imperial ships just entered orbit. A full patrol unit." Rhea cursed. How did they find us so fast? Lyra checked her scanner. "They're scanning the moon. If they detect this chamber, they'll blast the entire area," Rhea finished, gripping her rifle. Another tremor shook the room. The Empire was not firing yet, but they were close. If they discovered an ancient Terran supersoldier underground, they would destroy everything without hesitation. Rhea looked at the cryopod again. "Can we move him?" she asked. Elias shook his head. "The pod is connected to the entire chamber. Removing it might kill him." Rhea clenched her jaw. They were running out of time. Lion was their only chance, but waking him was risky. Nobody knew if the Aegis prototypes were stable. The old files had described them as powerful, unpredictable, and extremely dangerous. Another shockwave hit, stronger this time. Metal beams broke loose from above. Dust filled the air. The Empire was preparing to fire the first blast. Rhea made a decision she hoped she wouldn't regret. "Wake him," she ordered. Lyra blinked. Captain, if he's unstable? It's that, or we die here. Elias rushed to the pod's control panel. His hands shook as he pressed the sequence. The chamber lights dimmed. The cryopod hissed, steam spilling out in thick waves. The glass windows slowly defrosted. The glow inside brightened from pale blue to deep white. Rhea stepped back with her weapon ready. Everyone held their breath. The temperature dropped sharply. The hum grew louder. The final lock disengaged with a heavy click. The pod opened. Cold mist burst out, covering the floor. The man inside took a long, slow breath, the first breath he had taken in centuries. His eyes opened, glowing faintly before adjusting to the dim light. Lion looked around with calm awareness, as if he already understood the situation. His voice came out steady and strong. How long was I asleep? Rhea swallowed. A very long time. The chamber shook again. A louder explosion echoed from above. Lion turned his head toward the ceiling, listening. Imperial weapons, he said immediately. Rhea's heart skipped. He recognized them just from the sound. They are preparing a heavy strike, Lion continued. If we remain here, we will not survive. He stepped out of the pod. His movements were controlled, balanced, almost too perfect. He stood tall, scanning the chamber. Rhea watched him with awe and fear. Can you fight? Lion looked at her, calm, focused, confident. That is what I was made for. Before Rhea could respond, the ground shook again. The Empire was coming. Their window of escape was shrinking. And humanity's forgotten weapon had just awakened. The chamber lights flickered again as another blast shook the moon's surface. Dust rained down from the ceiling, falling like gray snow. Captain Rhea Morgan steadied herself, but Lion, freshly awakened from centuries of sleep, didn't even flinch. His balance was perfect, his stance firm as if his body instantly adapted to the shaking ground. Elias checked his scanner with shaking hands. Captain. Imperial landing craft are approaching the surface. Multiple units. We have less than 7 minutes before they reach this chamber. Rhea turned to Lion. We need to move. Can you walk? Do you need medical support? Lion stepped forward, testing his legs briefly. His movement was smooth and natural, like a soldier who had just gotten out of bed, not a man who slept for 500 years. His eyes scanned the room, absorbing every detail. I am fully functional, he said calmly. My systems are stable. Rhea blinked. Systems? She didn't know if that meant his body, his mind, or something else. Lyra pointed toward the tunnel exit. We need to go now. If the Empire destroys this moon, we'll be buried alive. Lion looked at the tunnel, then at the ceiling. The enemy scanners are focusing on this chamber. They know there is something valuable here. Another explosion rumbled overhead, closer this time. The ground vibrated under their boots. Rhea grabbed her rifle. Move out. We'll explain everything on the ship. Lion followed, but suddenly stopped near a fallen Imperial scout drone half buried in dust. He knelt beside it, examining its metal frame. With a single motion of his hand, he pulled out a power cell and a small alloy strip. What are you doing? Elias asked. Lion didn't answer. He snapped the alloy strip into shape, twisted it, and attached the power cell. The pieces clicked together with unnatural precision. In 5 seconds, he had built a small device that pulsed with faint blue light. Rhea stared. What is that? A directional jammer, Lion replied. It will delay the Imperial sensors for 60 seconds. Rhea couldn't believe it. You built that, from scrap? It is what I was trained to do. He placed the device on the ground. It flashed once, then expanded into a small holographic field. Elias watched the radar. He's right. Their scan lines just broke. They think this chamber is empty. Lyra exhaled. Then let's hurry before they figure it out again. They ran into the tunnel. Lion kept pace easily, showing no sign of exhaustion. The tremors grew stronger as the Empire continued firing on the moon's surface. Rhea's mind raced with questions, but there was no time. Behind them, the jammer flickered. The Empire was already breaking through the interference. When they reached the staircase, the tunnel lights suddenly shut off. Pitch darkness swallowed everything. Lyra cursed. Power systems down. The last blast must have hit the generator. Rhea tapped her helmet light. It flickered weakly. Before the light could stabilize, Lion raised his hand, and a soft white glow formed along the lines of nanotech embedded under his skin. The tattoos lit up like thin rivers of light. What is that? Lyra whispered. My internal power reserves, Lion said simply. Stay close. With Lion leading, the group moved upward through the dark tunnel. His glowing lines lit the path like gentle lanterns, pushing back the shadows. Elias checked the radar again. Captain. Imperial breachers are already in the upper corridor. We'll run straight into them. Lion stopped walking. How many? 2 squads. Maybe 20 soldiers. Lion nodded once. Stay here. Rhea grabbed his arm. Lion, wait. We don't know what you can do. Lion turned his head slightly, his expression calm and focused. I was designed to fight in worse conditions than this. Before she could stop him, Lion moved. He didn't run. He vanished, moving faster than Rhea's eyes could follow, leaving only a faint blur of white light in the darkness. The team stared ahead, listening. Then, thud, crash, metal scraping. Short screams abruptly cut off. Only seconds passed, but it felt longer. When silence returned, Lion reappeared at the top of the stairs. He wasn't breathing heavily. Not a scratch marked his skin. The path is clear, he said. Rhea couldn't hide her shock. You took them out alone? They were slow, Lion replied simply. Slow. Imperial soldiers were enhanced, armored, and feared across the galaxy. Yet Lion treated them like a minor inconvenience. They hurried upward. The tunnel opened into an exterior entry shaft. Above them, the hatch was half blown open from Imperial blasts. Light from the red star shone through the cracks, mixing with drifting dust. As they climbed the final ladder, a shadow flew across the opening. Rhea froze. What was that? Elias checked. Imperial gunship. They're sweeping the area. Lyra whispered, if they see us, they'll fire instantly. Lion looked at the hatch. I will handle it. Rhea stepped forward. Lion, wait. But he was already moving. He grabbed the edge of the metal hatch and pushed. The heavy steel lifted with surprising ease. He slipped out into the harsh sunlight. Rhea climbed after him, heart pounding. What she saw made her breath catch. The Imperial gunship hovered low, scanning the ground. Its cannons turned toward Lion the moment he appeared, but he leaped into the air with impossible power. The shockwave cracked the ground beneath him. He landed on the gunship's hull. Sparks flew as he smashed through its engine compartment. The ship spun wildly. Lion jumped off just before the gunship crashed into the rocks, exploding in a burst of fire and metal. Elias and Lyra climbed out behind Rhea, staring in disbelief. Rhea looked at Lion. You destroyed it with your bare hands. Lion stepped away from the burning wreckage. Its armor was weak. Rhea almost laughed. Wait, it was one of the Empire's deadliest patrol ships. No time for awe, their own ship was only a short sprint across the rocky field. They dashed toward it as the Empire intensified their attack. A giant shadow passed overhead, another cruiser entering low orbit. Elias shouted, they're preparing to fire the main cannon. We need to leave now. The Terran ship opened its ramp automatically. Rhea turned back to Lion. Can you fly with us? Lion nodded. I will protect you until we reach safety. They boarded the ship, hearts racing as the engines roared to life. Above them, the Empire gathered to strike. But this time, humanity had something ancient on its side. Something the galaxy had forgotten. A legend awakened. The Terran ship Starling shot upward from the moon's surface, engines screaming as it pushed toward the upper atmosphere. Inside the cockpit, alarms blared and red lights flashed across every screen. Captain Rhea gripped the pilot's controls tightly, knuckles white. Come on, just a little faster, she whispered through clenched teeth. Behind her, Elias worked frantically on the radar system. Captain, the Imperial fleet is already in formation. They're blocking every exit route. Lyra's voice cracked through the intercom. Main power is stable, but shields are only at 30%. One direct hit and we're done. Rhea didn't answer. She didn't need to. The entire crew already knew their situation was desperate. But Lion, standing calmly between the back seats, didn't look worried at all. His posture was steady, controlled. His eyes remained focused on the stars beyond the windshield, studying the formation of the Imperial fleet with a calmness no human should have at a moment like this. Rhea glanced at him. You don't seem concerned. Lion's expression didn't change. The Empire is predictable. Their formation suggests fear. Elias blinked. Fear? There are 30 ships out there. Exactly, Lion replied. If they were confident, they would have sent 5. Rhea exchanged a look with Elias. Lion's logic didn't make sense to normal humans, but it made perfect sense for a super soldier. A sudden flash of red illuminated the cockpit. Elias shouted, incoming fire. They've locked onto us. A blast tore past the ship, shaking it violently. Lyra screamed through the comms, shields down to 24%. Rhea pulled the ship into a sharp roll, dodging a second blast by inches. Another beam streaked across their path. "They're trying to corner us," she said. "They will succeed," Lion added calmly. "Unless you change direction." Elias frowned at him. "Change to what direction?" "They've cut off every corridor." Lion stepped closer to the cockpit, placing a hand on the railing. "Move toward the center of their formation." Rhea whipped her head around. "Are you insane? That's suicide." "For you," Lion said softly. "But not for me." Rhea froze. Lion held her gaze for a moment, steady, unshaken, certain. "I will open a path," he said. Elias looked horrified. You're going out there? Alone?" "It is what I was created to do." Rhea's heart raced. Lion wasn't just serious, he was confident. Certain. This was not bravery. This was a weapon returning to its purpose. But sending him out into a full Imperial blockade? "Lion," Rhea said, her voice low, "you just woke up. We don't even know the limits of your power." Lion turned toward the airlock. "I know enough." Another blast hit the Starling, shaking the cockpit violently. Lyra shouted, "Captain! Shields down to 18%. We cannot take another hit." Rhea made her decision. "Elias, open the launch bay." Elias hesitated. "Captain." "Do it." With a shaking hand, Elias slammed the control. Deep inside the ship, the launch bay doors began to open. Air sucked outward as the pressure equalized. Wind and metal groans filled the corridor. Lion stepped inside the bay, his silhouette framed by the harsh red emergency lights. Rhea followed him. "Lion," she called out, "what exactly is your plan?" Lion turned slightly, his eyes glowing faintly. "To end the blockade." Rhea's throat tightened. "Alone?" "Alone is enough." The bay doors finished opening. Space stretched beyond, a wide black sea filled with lights, lasers, and the enormous shadows of Imperial warships. Lion stepped to the edge. He turned his head one last time. "Stay behind me." When the ship's break formation escaped through the opening, Rhea nodded slowly. "Don't get killed out there." Lion offered a faint smile. "I was engineered not to die." And then he jumped. His body shot into space with incredible force. The shockwave hit the Starling, rattling its hull. Rhea rushed back to the cockpit. "Track him." Elias stared at the radar, stunned. I'm trying. He's moving too fast. I can't get a lock." Outside, Lion streaked across the void like a living comet. His body glowed with white energy as he cut through the darkness. Imperial ships detected him instantly. Admiral Zaltor, aboard the command cruiser Vengeance, watched the incoming signal with confusion. "What is that?" he demanded. His officers scrambled. "A life form, sir. Human. But extremely fast." Zaltor snarled. "Fire on it. Destroy it and the Terran ship." But when the first volley of lasers fired, Lion was no longer there. He darted between ships with unreadable speed. His movements looked impossible, even insane. Rhea watched from the ship, eyes wide. "He's dodging at light speed." "No," Elias whispered. "He's predicting the shots. Before they happen." As they watched, Lion landed on a cruiser hull. His hands glowed with energy, then he drove them into the metal plating as if it were soft clay. A blinding explosion erupted as the ship's core destabilized. The cruiser cracked apart, fire spilling into the void. Lyra screamed through the comms. "He just destroyed an entire ship, without a weapon." Another blast echoed as Lion used a discarded metal plate like a spear, launching it into a destroyer's engine. The destroyer spiraled out of control, slamming into another ship and causing a chain explosion. One by one, ships scattered, breaking formation. Admiral Zaltor couldn't believe his eyes. "What is that thing?" A trembling officer whispered, "Sir? That is Aegis technology. Ancient Terran." Zaltor's face went pale. "Aegis? I thought that project failed." "It appears," the officer said quietly, "it did not." Lion destroyed a third ship, tearing it open with a burst of raw kinetic power that no living being should wield. The bridge of the command cruiser shook violently. Zaltor grabbed a railing. "All ships pull back. Retreat. Now." But it was too late. Lion appeared on the command cruiser's hull. He stood there in silence, surrounded by flames and drifting shrapnel. His glowing eyes stared at the cruiser as if deciding whether to let it live. The Empire panicked. Ships broke formation, engines activating as they tried to flee. Elias stared at the radar. "Captain, they're retreating." Lion forced them to break blockade. Rhea didn't waste a second. Punch engines. Full speed. The Starling blasted forward, slipping through the gap Lion created. As they left the battlefield, Rhea looked back. There, floating calmly in the debris, Lion stood on the ruined hull of a burning cruiser, framed by drifting embers and the emptiness of space. He had just defeated an entire Imperial front line. Alone. And effortlessly. Rhea whispered, "What have we awakened?" Elias answered softly. "Humanity's lost super soldier." Lion drifted in open space, his body steady and balanced despite the chaos around him. Pieces of destroyed Imperial cruisers floated like broken crowns in the darkness, glowing with fading fire. The stars reflected off his metallic nanotech lines, giving him an almost unreal presence, half human, half something far beyond human limits. Deep inside the Terran ship Starling, alarms continued to scream as Rhea struggled to pull away from the dying battlefield. Engine output at 80%. Lyra shouted from engineering. "If we push harder, the core will overheat." "We don't have a choice," Rhea replied. Elias status on Lion. Elias stared at the radar in disbelief. "He's walking on the hull of a cruiser. Captain, he's not even in a suit." "He doesn't need one," Rhea muttered. Outside, Lion took a step. The destroyed cruiser beneath him groaned and shifted, metal fragments sliding into the void. He crouched for a moment, studying the remaining enemy ships. They were scattered, frightened, uncoordinated. A perfect moment to strike. In the distance, 3 Imperial destroyers repositioned, forming a triangle around him. Elias shouted, "Captain. The Empire's regrouping. They're locking onto Lion with all 3 ships." Rhea's chest tightened. "Lion, do you hear me? They're targeting you." But Lion wasn't listening to any comm channel. He already knew. On the Vengeance, Admiral Zaltor paced across the bridge with frantic steps. Sweat rolled down his temples as he watched the super soldier's signal glowing like a white ember on the tactical map. "How can one Terran do this?" he roared. "Hit him again. Fire." The 3 destroyers shot massive beams of red energy directly at Lion. The beams were powerful enough to punch holes through star stations. Lion simply stood still. The beams slammed into him with a blinding flash. For a second, the entire battlefield disappeared behind the explosion. Rhea's heart froze. "Lion?" Elias whispered, "He can't survive that, nothing can?" But then the light faded. And Lion was still there. Floating. Untouched. Perfectly calm. The glowing lines on his arms flared brighter, absorbing the remaining energy like gentle sparks. Rhea let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "He absorbed it?" "No," Elias said quietly. "He ate that blast." Lion lifted one hand slowly. His eyes narrowed. The air around him shimmered as if space itself bent under pressure. Then, boom. He moved. He accelerated so fast that the human eye couldn't follow. One moment he was standing still, the next he slammed into the first destroyer with a crushing impact that cracked its armored hull. The ship tilted violently, alarms echoing through its decks. Inside, Imperial officers panicked. "Brace for impact." "He's punching through the hull." Their screams were cut off as Lion tore open the metal plating with his bare hands. He reached inside, grabbed the ship's power conduit, and ripped it out like it was a loose cable. A massive shockwave engulfed the destroyer. Light filled every window. Fire shot out from its spine. Within seconds, the first destroyer exploded into a blooming fireball. Rhea's jaw dropped. He took out a destroyer with one hit. The shockwave rocked the Starling, but Lion held his position in space like a stone in a river. The second destroyer panicked and fired blindly at him, but Lion zigzagged through the beams with movements that looked impossible for a human body. He kicked off a floating piece of debris, launching himself toward the second ship. As he flew, he extended his arm, and the nanotech in his skin formed a blade of white energy. He slashed once. The destroyer split open from bow to stern. The explosion was so bright it lit up the moon's surface far below. The third destroyer tried to flee. Lion teleported. Not traditionally, his body simply accelerated so fast that he seemed to appear on the fleeing ship's tail in less than a heartbeat. He placed his palm gently on the engine core. The nanotech lines on his arm shifted, turning bright gold. A pulse of energy erupted from his hand. The ship's engines failed instantly. Its lights died. It drifted powerless into the void like a dead whale. In seconds, Lion had destroyed 3 Imperial destroyers with almost no effort. But he wasn't done. On the Vengeance, Admiral Zaltor shook with fear as Lion's silhouette appeared on the main screen. This is impossible," he whispered. "Humans are weak. They have always been weak." "Not this one," one officer murmured. "Silence." Zaltor slammed his fist onto the console. "Prepare the main cannon. Target him." The entire command deck buzzed with tension. Lion turned slowly toward the Empire's largest ship, the command cruiser Vengeance. His eyes glowed brighter, focusing on the massive structure. He could feel the heat building inside its main cannon. He could hear every vibration, every crew member running, every order shouted out of fear. He whispered to himself. Predictable. The Vengeance fired. A massive beam of white-hot plasma surged toward Lion, powerful enough to devastate a small moon. The beam struck him, and he caught it. His palms pressed against the energy stream, and the beam split around him like water around a stone. Elias gasped. "That's impossible." Lion's voice echoed through space, carried by the Aegis suit's transmitter. "Enough." He pushed the beam aside and launched himself straight at the cruiser. He slammed into the hull with a thunderous impact that shattered every nearby window. The ship trembled violently. Lion dug his fingers into the armor, climbing upward like a storm. Inside, Zaltor screamed, "Fire again." The main cannon tried to recharge, but Lion reached it first. He punched through the metal, sending sparks and fire exploding outward. The cannon detonated internally, causing a chain reaction. The massive ship cracked open like an overripe fruit. The Vengeance ripped in half. Flames consumed its spine as bodies and debris scattered across space. Rhea whispered, stunned. "He just destroyed the command ship." Elias swallowed hard. He didn't just destroy it, he erased it. The entire Imperial blockade collapsed in fear. Surviving ships fled in every direction like insects running from a burning nest. In the center of the battlefield, Lion floated calmly, watching them scatter. His arms slowly lowered. The glow faded. The battle was over. Humanity's lost supersoldier had annihilated an Imperial armada. Alone. And he was only getting started. The battlefield was silent now. The burning remains of Imperial warships drifted across the endless dark. Slowly, like dust settling after a storm, the debris spread out and faded into the distance. Only one figure still moved in the quiet space, Lion. He floated there, motionless, his body slowly rotating as the last golden lines of power dimmed on his skin. His expression was unreadable, calm but empty, as if his mind was somewhere far beyond human understanding. Inside the Starling, the crew watched him with awe and fear mixed together. Rhea whispered, "Open a channel. Lion, can you hear us? The battle is over. We need to bring you in." No response. Elias leaned closer to the monitor. "Captain, his vitals are stabilizing? But something strange is happening. His neural patterns, they're increasing. Fast." "How fast?" Rhea asked. "To impossible levels," Elias said softly. "It's like his mind is waking up." Lion drifted freely, but inside his head, everything was changing. He felt cold at first, a cold so deep it seemed to stretch into the void around him. Then a soft vibration echoed inside his bones, like a forgotten heartbeat trying to restart. A voice followed. Not human. Not machine. Something in between. System reboot initiated, unlocking restricted memory sectors. A flash of light burst inside Lion's mind. He gasped silently, clutching his head as visions hit him like waves. He saw himself inside a bright laboratory. Scientists wearing white suits. A giant chamber filled with glowing nanotech fluid. Wires connected to his body. Voices talking fast. Subject LX-01 is stabilizing. Increase neural capacity by 20%. He is more than a weapon. He is humanity's last torch. Another flash. He saw Earth, beautiful, shining blue. Then he saw the Empire's fleets attacking it. Cities burning. People running. A giant shadow covering the world. He remembered pain. He remembered sacrifice. He remembered dying. Or at least something like dying. And then, darkness. Deep, endless, silent darkness. Until the Terran ship found his pod. Until he woke again. His eyes snapped open. The stars looked different now. Sharper. Clear. Like he could read their temperature and distance just by looking at them. "I remember." His voice was soft but stronger, deeper. He tapped the device on his wrist, and the nanotech lines on his arms reactivated. The suit around his body solidified again, but this time the glow was more controlled, more stable. Inside the Starling, Elias shouted, "Captain." His energy output just spiked again. "No, it's leveling. Wait, it's stabilizing." "Perfectly." What does that mean? Lyra asked. It means, Elias said slowly, he just unlocked a part of himself we didn't know existed. Rhea straightened her shoulders. Open the docking bay. Bring him home. The docking bay doors slid open as Lion stepped inside. His boots clicked softly on the metal floor. The crew stared at him like he was a living legend. Rhea approached first. Are you hurt? Lion shook his head. No. I am better. Elias studied him carefully. Lion, your neural data is off the charts. Something changed in your mind during the battle. What happened out there? Lion took a long breath. My memories are returning. Slowly. Rhea's eyes narrowed. Memories of what? My mission. My creation. My purpose. Everyone fell silent. Even the hum of the engines felt quieter. Lion continued, I was created during the last days of Earth's war. When the Empire was winning. They needed a soldier who could fight alone. Who could survive anything. Who could hold the line while humanity escaped. Elias asked, but humanity didn't escape. Earth fell. Yes, Lion said with a trace of sorrow. But I was already in stasis. They sent me into deep space. A final attempt. A message for the future. A message? Rhea asked. Lion looked right into her eyes. To remind humanity who they are. His voice echoed through the bay. To remind them they are not prey. The crew tried to process his words when the ship suddenly shook. Boom. The lights flickered. Rhea turned sharply toward the comm panel. What was that? Lyra's voice crackled over the speaker. Captain, I'm picking up a huge energy surge behind the moon. Something just decloaked. Elias ran to the radar monitor. His face drained of color. Oh no. What is it? Rhea demanded. Not a ship, Elias whispered. A station. A massive Imperial station. And it's charging weapons. The screen displayed a giant metal ring rising from the moon's shadow. It looked ancient and deadly, covered in glowing runes and rotating machinery. Lyra shouted, Captain, that thing has a focused beam cannon capable of vaporizing a continent. Rhea's voice hardened. They were hiding this the entire time. The station aimed directly at the starling. A deep hum shook the air, vibrating through the metal floor. The crew grabbed onto nearby support rails as the deck trembled. Elias yelled, It's locking onto us. Rhea's mind raced. Evasive. But before she could finish, Lion stepped forward. Let me. Everyone turned to him. Rhea frowned. Lion, that is not a destroyer. That is a super weapon. It's too risky. Lion shook his head gently. Risky for humans. Not for me. Elias argued, but you just woke up. You don't know your limits yet. Lion looked at him with calm certainty. I know now. He moved toward the exit. The bay doors opened. The cold darkness of space waited outside. Lion paused only once and looked back at Rhea. You saved me. Now I save you. Then he stepped into the void again. Lion flew toward the moon station with speed that no human eye could follow. The station's weapon core glowed brighter, preparing to fire. Lion's own energy surged like a rising storm. Inside the station, Imperial officers panicked. It's the Terran super soldier. He's coming straight at us. Fire the weapon. Fire. A giant beam exploded outward, bright as a newborn star. It shot directly toward Lion. Lion didn't slow. He didn't dodge. He flew straight into the heart of the beam. And everything turned white. The awakening had just begun. The world became nothing but white light. The Imperial superweapon fired with the force of a small sun, a beam meant to erase cities, fleets, even planets. It hit Lion directly, swallowing him inside a burning river of energy. Inside the Starling, the crew watched in shock. Rhea whispered, he flew, straight into it. Elias shook his head. That beam can tear through mountains. Nothing can survive that. Lyra's voice wavered. But Lion is not nothing. No one spoke after that. They simply stared at the massive screen, waiting, hoping. Inside the beam, Lion felt his body breaking apart. He could feel every particle of energy ripping at his armor, tearing into his skin. His nanotech suit tried to stabilize, but even it struggled against the overwhelming force. Pain filled him, but not fear. Instead, something inside him unlocked again. Another voice echoed through his mind. Emergency override. Phase Sigma protocol activated. Golden circuits spread across his arms and chest, brighter and sharper than ever before. His eyes glowed fully now, glowing like molten metal. He pushed forward through the storm. Every movement was like lifting a planet. But he kept moving. He would not stop. He had been created to protect humanity, not to fall here. Not again. The Imperial Moonfall Station shook violently as alarms blared across every deck. The target is still moving. Impossible. Increase power to maximum. He's cutting through the beam. No, he's walking through it. Officers raced across the command bridge, shouting orders and slamming controls. On the main screen, a tiny glowing figure pushed forward through the beam, slowly, steadily, relentlessly. He's going to reach the station. Lock all blast doors. Deploy drone swarms. The commander slammed his fist into the console. This creature ends here. Prepare the internal defenses. The beam faded at last, leaving a burning trail through space. When the light cleared, Lion floated in front of the station. Smoke drifted from his armor. His skin was cracked with glowing lines. But he was alive. Alive and stronger. He looked at the giant metal ring before him. A weapon built to terrorize planets. A symbol of the Empire's absolute power. Lion raised one hand. Golden energy swirled in his palm. No more. He shot forward like a meteor. Inside the Starling, the room erupted. Rhea gasped. He made it through. Elias stared at the data. His energy levels? Captain, this shouldn't be possible. He's absorbing radiation from the beam. It's feeding him. Lyra shook her head in awe. He's adapting faster than the station can output. Rhea leaned toward the screen. Then he has a chance. A chance? Elias whispered. No, Captain. He's turning into something unstoppable. Lion smashed into the outer hull of the Moonfall Station. The impact sent shockwaves through every corridor. Metal cracked. Walls bent. Lights exploded overhead. Imperial soldiers rushed toward the breach, weapons ready. There he is. Fire everything. Don't let him reach the core. Dozens of plasma bolts flew through the air. Lion walked through them. Some hit him. Sparks erupted. But he didn't slow down. His steps echoed through the metal corridors, loud like thunder. Every soldier he passed froze, terrified by the glowing figure approaching them. Lion didn't attack them unless they attacked first. But no weapon could pierce him now. He was no longer just a prototype. He was fully awakened. The station's main reactor chamber lay ahead. A massive sphere of rotating energy pulsing with power. If Lion destroyed it, the station would collapse. The Imperial commander stood waiting on the bridge above the reactor, flanked by armored guards. He shouted down at Lion, "You are a mistake. A failed experiment from a dead world." Lion looked up at him. "No," he said quietly. "I am humanity's reminder." The commander roared, "Open fire." Heavy cannons targeted Lion. Explosive rounds filled the chamber. Lion leaped high, landing on the bridge in a burst of light. He ripped one cannon in half with his bare hands, sending debris crashing below. Guards charged at him but were thrown aside like dust. The commander backed away terrified. You can't destroy the station. It is a sacred weapon of the Empire." Lion stepped closer, eyes blazing. "Your Empire forgot one thing." "What?" the commander whispered. Lion placed his hand on the floor. Golden energy spread like cracks of lightning. "Humans don't give up." The entire bridge shook. The reactor sphere below began to overload. The commander screamed, "No, stop, you'll destroy us all." Lion looked calm, almost peaceful. "Yes." The Moonfall Station lit up from the inside, glowing brighter and brighter. Inside the Starling, warnings flashed across every screen. Elias shouted, "Captain, the station is going critical." Rhea turned to Lyra. "Get us out of range." "What about Lion?" Lyra cried. Rhea whispered, "We can only hope he escapes in time." But even as the Starling sped away, a massive explosion burst behind the moon. A sphere of light expanded, swallowing the Moonfall Station, tearing it apart with a deafening shockwave. The crew shielded their eyes. The weapon was gone. But so was Lion. Silence filled the Starling. Rhea stared at the empty space on the screen. Her voice was soft. "He saved us, but at what cost?" Elias checked every scanner. I can't find him. There's too much radiation." Lyra covered her mouth. "He can't be gone. He can't." Rhea felt her chest tighten. "Lion." For a long moment no one spoke. Then, a faint ping echoed on the radar. Elias looked up sharply. "Wait, something's there." Rhea rushed to the console. "Is it debris?" "No," Elias said, eyes wide. "It's energy. A human-shaped energy signal." Lyra whispered, "It's him." Rhea felt hope rise in her heart. Locate him. Bring him in. Somewhere in the glowing cloud of destruction, a small golden light flickered, and slowly it moved. Lion was still alive. Barely, but alive. The conclusion of the 7-part story. The cloud of fire and dust slowly faded behind the moon. The Moonfall station was gone, reduced to glowing fragments drifting silently through space. But one golden spark still moved. Weakly, slowly, but alive. Lion floated through the radiation field like a fading candle in a storm. His armor was almost gone, his body covered with cracks of light as if he was breaking from the inside. His vision blurred. He heard distant voices, maybe the crew calling him. Maybe memories from long ago. He wasn't sure. All he knew was that he had to keep going. One more moment. One more breath. One more step for humanity. Inside the Starling, the crew rushed to the command deck. Elias yelled, "I've got him." Weak signal, somewhere near the explosion zone. Rhea didn't wait. Lyra full speed. Get us to him now. The engines roared as the ship cut through the cloud of debris. Elias stared at the scanner. "Captain, his vitals are dropping fast." Rhea clenched her fists. "Not this time. We're not losing him." Lyra's voice shook. "We're approaching the coordinates." The screen showed a barely visible shape drifting in the dark, a human-shaped shadow with golden cracks glowing across his skin. Rhea whispered, "Lion?" The docking bay opened. 2 medical drones flew out to collect him, gently pulling him inside the ship. When the doors sealed, the crew ran toward him. Lion lay on the floor, breathing slowly, his eyes half open. His voice was rough and weak. "You came back." Rhea knelt beside him. "Of course we did." Elias scanned him quickly. "His nanotech is failing. Whatever he did inside the station, it burned through most of his systems." Lyra asked quietly, "Can he recover?" Elias didn't answer. His silence was enough. Rhea took Lion's hand. "Stay with us. You're not done yet." Lion gave her a small, tired smile. "I know. I still have one thing left to show you." He placed his hand on the floor. Golden light spread out, not destructive this time but calm, gentle. It formed a holographic pattern around them. A message. A memory. A piece of Earth's lost past. The light shaped itself into an old laboratory, the place Lion had seen in his visions. Scientists walked through the projected room, discussing plans. A tired engineer looked straight into the recording device. He spoke in a cracked voice. "If you are seeing this, then Earth has fallen." The crew froze. The man continued, "We created LX-01, Lion, not as a weapon of war but as our last gift to the future. His mind carries memories of Earth's culture, history, strength, and hope." The projection shifted to show Lion floating in a chamber, asleep. "He's our reminder. Our message. If humanity ever finds him, know this: Earth fought until the last moment." Another scientist stepped forward, holding a small glowing chip. "This contains everything we wanted the galaxy to remember about us. Our stories, our science, our dreams. Give it to him. He will know what to do." The recording flickered. The last line came in a whisper. "Humanity may fall, but humans never break." The light faded away. The hologram disappeared. And Lion closed his eyes. Silence filled the bay. Rhea finally spoke. "Lion, that message, why show us now?" Lion opened his eyes slightly. "Because you needed to know the truth. Earth is not a lost memory. It lives in every human who survives." He slowly reached into his armor and pulled out a small glowing crystal, the same memory core from the hologram. "This is Earth's final archive. Everything the Empire tried to erase." Rhea took it gently. "We'll protect it." Lion smiled faintly. "I knew you would." His breathing grew weaker. Elias shook his head. "Captain, he needs rest. And time. His systems are rebuilding themselves but he's close to shutting down." Rhea touched Lion's shoulder. "We're not losing you. You hear me?" Lion looked at her with tired but warm eyes. "You won't. I just need to sleep. To rebuild. The fight is not over yet." She nodded. "Rest, soldier." As his eyes finally closed, he whispered, "Wake me when humanity rises again." Then he went still. Not dead. Not gone. Just sleeping, like a machine returning to standby mode. A living weapon waiting for the next call. Weeks passed. The Starling traveled through quiet space, carrying Lion in a sealed recovery chamber. His body glowed softly, repairing itself one cell at a time. Outside the chamber window, Rhea often stood watching him. Elias joined her one day. "He's stable. More stable than we expected. How long until he wakes? She asked. Elias shrugged. Could be days. Could be months. Rhea looked at Lion's silent form. He saved humanity's future. All we can do is give him time. Lyra entered with a small smile. Captain, we received a message from Terra Colony Gamma. Rhea turned. What message? They heard what Lion did. The whole galaxy is whispering about a human supersoldier who destroyed an Imperial fleet and wiped out a secret moon weapon. Elias chuckled softly. HFY. Humanity F******, yes star. Guess the galaxy finally believes it. Rhea nodded with pride. Good. Let them know. Humanity isn't done. She placed her hand gently on the recovery chamber. Because when he wakes up, the Empire will learn what Earth really left behind. Inside, Lion floated peacefully, golden lines glowing like quiet stars. Waiting. Resting. Preparing. Humanity's lost supersoldier would rise again. He was not Earth's last memory. He was Earth's future.